asked for information about a letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop story as Russian disinformation. The letter states that the committees have reason to believe additional documents remain in possession of the CIA. They say that that letter was written and published after communications that took place between the acting CIA director, Michael Morrell, and then Biden campaign advisor and now Secretary of State Antony Blinken. They have asked the CIA to produce all of the documents related to their inquiry without redactions by May 30th. John, Bianca.
Yeah, that Morrell testimony, pretty damning there. Kimberly Dukart, appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, let's welcome in now Congressman Greg Steube from Florida. He is a retired U.S. Army officer. He's also on the House committee investigating the investigators. Great to see you, Congressman.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so, I mean, there is some anticipation, disappointment after the anticipation ahead of the Durham report, but I know the beat goes on for members of Congress. What can we expect at this hearing tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, you're frustrated because there was obviously a lot of weaponization that occurred, and they admit that the Russia collusion hoax was exactly that, and there was no criminal charges brought against any of these individuals. So people like myself are very frustrated that Comey and some of these others can weaponize the FBI for political purposes and nothing happens to them. The American people are sick and tired of people like that using their power and authority for political purposes, and nothing happens to them because of what they've done other than losing their jobs. So that is frustrating. I think you're going to hear from whistleblowers tomorrow in the Weaponization Committee talking about how the FBI and the DOJ has been completely weaponized for political purposes, from going after school board parents as domestic terrorists to the type of things that they've done on the campaign side to try to surveil individuals in the Trump campaign. I think you're going to hear lots of things like that.
And what do you think about your colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene's articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray? Where does that lead?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge that we have in the House, like I signed on to an impeachment for Secretary Mayorkas for all the chaos at our border, and even if the House goes forward and moves that, there's not 60 votes in the Senate to remove these individuals. So then the calculation becomes, do we spend the time to impeach these individuals when I think we can send a stronger message through the appropriations process that falls fully in the jurisdiction of the House of Representatives by defunding some of these things. Defund FISA authorization. Don't reauthorize FISA. Defund these type of groups within the FBI and the DOJ that are doing this type of activity that's clearly in violation of ethics and what they should be doing. And I think it's criminal conduct, but apparently John Durham doesn't think it is. So there's ways that we can use the purse strings of the House to really accomplish policy objectives. I think that's the way we should approach it.
Congressman Steube, on Newsmax, former President Trump spoke to us in his own words reacting to the Durham report using the word treason. I mean, it does sound like there is, as you mentioned, there's no accountability. The report was late, but we also have an election that is coming up. We'll be playing Trump's interview at 3 o'clock here. But when you look ahead to the importance of restoring the faith for Americans in our justice system, how can that be done if there are, as you mentioned, no accountability for anything that we've read in that 308-page Durham report?
Yeah, the only real way that that can be accomplished is a Republican getting elected in 2024 as the President of the United States, because they would have the ability to deep dive into these agencies and get rid of people that are using it for political purposes and replace them with people that are going to apply the law equally and fairly across the board. So that's the real way that we're going to do it. And I hope that Americans that are frustrated like I am with these individuals getting away with this type of activity and not being held criminally liable for it will use their ability to vote in the upcoming presidential election, because that's really the only way that we're going to change some of these agencies is from the presidential White House perspective, because he has the authority over all of these different agencies.
Congressman, one of the things we've been talking about here today is what I call the Ministry of Misinformation, the Justice Department, and this incestuous relationship between CNN, MSNBC, somehow the Washington Post and the New York Times know all these intimate details about what happens on these very secret investigations, ongoing investigations of Mar-a-Lago, etc. And we have to wonder how long this revolving door can continue. Specifically, it's Karine Jean-Pierre we want to focus on right now. She is supposed to represent the American public and get answers for us from the White House, but she's also a partisan hack. And here's an example of that, her back in 2018.
I think he feels that there is something that's going to come out about Russia. Remember, there's money laundering. He knows what the Trump organization has been doing.
Go ahead.
So, that's her then. Now she can't talk about the Durham probe, which I guess is appropriate given her role. But it's a little hard for all of us to take, Congressman.
Yeah, the Democrats are using the weaponization of the federal government to accomplish political objectives, and then their hacks in the mainstream media are then regurgitating talking points that are completely false and completely a fraud on the American people. I mean, how many years did we hear from the mainstream media that the Trump campaign colluded and conspired with Russia? They spent $36 million on an investigation to find out that's actually not what happened. And now after this Durham investigation, we find out it's actually the Hillary Clinton campaign that was peddling false information to their people in the DOJ and the FBI to then get warrants to surveil on American citizens to prove something that doesn't occur, but to create this narrative that the mainstream media could perpetuate across political spectrums and across mainstream media. And there's still people today that believe that Trump conspired and colluded with the Russian government to win the election in 2016. That's absolutely false.
Including Hillary Clinton. And when we hear the lock her up chants again, now everyone will know why, at least if they care to read the Durham report. Congressman, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, coming up.